Cool. Well, welcome everyone to Karura Community Call. I'm Robin, Community and Growth Manager here at Akala and Karura. We'll go really quick around and do some quick intros before we kick off to the agenda. Betty, if you could please intro yourself.
Yeah, sure. This is Betty, co-founder of Akala, and also Karura. Yeah, thanks to be here. Calling in from Auckland still in lockdown. So we've done a lot of work in the last 3 or 4 weeks because we are locked down and have nothing else to do. So,
Josh, please go ahead.
Hi everyone, it's Josh. I'm user operations at Akala and Karura. You should see me a lot in our Discord. So thanks for tuning in.
Cool. If you're just joining these community calls, the way it works is we have the community call whiteboard, and that's where we'll post any sort of visual elements about what we're discussing. I have the agenda over there right now, so you can take a look. I definitely encourage you guys to ask any questions in community call chat, or you can raise your hand to join this stage for the Q&A portion. So without further ado, I know we've been covering LKSM quite a bit on these calls, mostly because we're super excited to launch this KSM liquid staking initiative. Yeah, so maybe we can go over where we're at on the roadmap and what the latest update is.
Yeah, so it's been quite a busy couple of weeks for us in the past wee while. Yeah, so I think we are very quietly and accruing a lot of the Kusama based values onto Karura. So this is more of we're doing a lot of experiments on the Karura chain. We haven't completely opened the liquid staking yet, which is expected to be probably the biggest liquidity pool to Karura, and then also that will probably also help all the other applications that will be built on and deployed on top of Karura. But of course, everything we do here is also kind of will be helping Akala when Akala plans to launch. It will understand, both the economic dynamics as well as how the ecosystem plays out. Yeah, so you will see us trying various different technical sort of experiments as well as economic experiments. And all in all, we are here to serve the DOT and KSM community and create like real and valuable use cases for DOT and KSM holders. And then at the same time, we are also serving all the parachain ecosystem. So you will already start seeing us, start to support other parachain token listing. So I think last week was Bifrost, this was Phala, and then I think A-Star and also Moonriver, well, Shiden, and Moonriver, and also maybe Code and others are also coming. And yeah, so we are supporting everyone in the parachain ecosystem to help them to create liquidity for their parachains, as well as doing some inter-parachain trading, right? So that would be the most exciting part. So we've been doing a lot of the groundwork to make that happen. Yeah, so that is what is happening. And then I think this morning our KUSD issuance just across 10 million. That is without very much liquid token being in the mix of minting KUSD. That's probably still mostly using KSM, which is quite an expensive asset. But but we still got to 10 mil. So which is quite a good milestone. But of course, we're playing the long game here. So I think in the next wee while, once we bootstrapped the liquid staking, the LKSM, as well as start creating more utility for the KUSD, I think KUSD is going to become the payment currency, the native payment currency within DOT and KSM ecosystem. I guess paying for grant program, maybe just being used as a medium of exchange in other parachains as well as maybe on Gitcoin, paying all those hackathons, etc. Also working with various different parties to make that happen. So we're here to serve, I guess. Now we almost at the tail end of building, but you never stop building. So yeah, so that's the general update. And then I guess the next topic, before I go into LKSM, we do have a planned technical upgrade and migration, which I'll talk through that first. And then I think Robin will have some more information on the LKSM launch very soon, the Staking Splash campaign. So I will talk through that after I mention the migration. So in the last week, we've started to enabling double or triple mining for our liquidity pools. So what that actually means is after this upgrade that we will be proposing very soon, so Brian is going to post that in the forum so everyone can look through the details, what's involved. What that essentially enable is this very cool thing where we can give out rewards in the form of any native token, like which you're already receiving in KAR, and it can also receive token from any other parachain tokens. For example, maybe Bifrost, Phala, or even Moonriver, if they want to give out rewards, the rewards can be given in their native parachain token format. And also we will be able to support ERC20s as rewards as well if any of those ERC cross over. So basically it is a multi-token reward system. And also in any given liquidity pool, depends on how the pool is set up, you could receive more than one reward tokens. So potentially in one of these pools, we could be giving out the parachain token. Well, not we, but the parachains might be willing to give parachain token rewards. And then from the Karura side, the foundation may decide to also throw in some KR rewards just to help the community to get involved from both sides, right? So, but all in all, technically, we have made that available so that we can actually provide more support for many more use cases on Karura. So that will be the technical upgrade. And then the special thing about that upgrade, once the details out, it will be more clear, is this also involves some optimization of the data storage on the blockchain. In a normal circumstances, if you are a normal blockchain, if you have this kind of like data structure change, you will have to go through a hard fork, right? But we are in this new world of Substrate and Polkadot and Kusama. So Karura is going to attempt this on-chain, hopefully forkless upgrade. And it's quite an elaborate process where we will be able to pause some of the transactions that's related to those particular areas that are of concern, and then perform the upgrade and then the data migration, and then unpause those transaction types. Yes, so the chain is very, very smart. Like we could send a transaction on chain and basically stop certain types of transaction to go through. For example, the data will affect the data for example, the liquidity pools, adding liquidity and removing liquidity. So those two particular transactions will not be available during the upgrade period. But for trading, for transferring tokens, will still be operational, right? So that's a cool part of this new thing that we are trying out here. So so more details will be given in that forum post, so you can actually go through and see exactly which transaction types will be paused, and the rest of it will still be operational. And then I think the expected time frame maybe an hour max or two, and we'll try to make it minimum and minimum disruption for everybody to use, but just a heads up that's probably happening in the next day or two. This upgrade and migration will happen. If we are able to pull this off, I think technically and also in the longer term commercially, when there's new use cases, there's new changes that's involved on the blockchain, then we will be very confident that we are able to evolve for basically a future proof for a lot of the stuff that we design for. So yeah, so that is that out of the way. And then the third thing that I'm going to mention is this liquid staking splash incentive program. Before we get into the Phala team, so we have been testing and then also doing a lot of dry runs on our platform in the last week or two for the liquid staking token. So if you haven't actually got on to the platform, you can go on and have a look. Even you're not ready for it yet, but it's there. So right now it's capped at 22,000 KSM. Is almost full again. So we basically set a very low cap every time. And then if it's really full, then we'll just increase the cap a little so that we can keep control of the amount of value being locked on the platform. So we are sure that we can actually kind of like protect and safeguard those assets before we scale up. And then we are now at a point that we are comfortable to lift the cap and then link up the liquid staking protocol to add its utility in other protocols. For example, we are ready to lift the cap so you can not only mint the LKSM and hold it and earn a staking reward, you can also use it to in the trading pools. So we're going to open up a KSM and LKSM trading pool. We're going to propose that because that may be a more favorable pool for most LPs, as LKSM and KSM are tracking more nicely together rather than a stablecoin pool. So so you will see that in the proposed post later on. And then on top of that, we will be able to, well, we're already able to kind of allow LKSM to as a collateral to borrow stablecoin. And then for the use case side, once you got your LKSM, you are enjoying the staking return, you may also want to participate in activities like crowd loan or trading without actually selling off your KSM or your staking yield. So that's why a lending protocol is usually useful for this type of use case. So you don't need to sell off the asset that you actually want to hold, but are able to get liquidity out of it. So how it works is, you can take your LKSM and then deposit it into the KUSD protocol, and then you can actually mint the dollar and then use the dollar for trading, or maybe buy more KSM and then participate in the crowd loan if you really want to, right? But obviously each one of those steps does have a risk involved. I did try that myself the other day by going through the process of how I actually did it. So this is a link for those of you who's interested in trying that out yourself. So basically, you can send your KSM trustlessly to the Karura network, and then using that KSM to mint LKSM, and you keep earning the staking reward, and then you can kind of deposit your KSM to mint some dollars, and using that dollar, you can basically leverage long KSM, right? And then with that KSM, you can either stake it again to earn double reward, or you can actually participate in a crowd loan of your fancy, right? So that is the process I went through. So it only took me a couple of minutes, but there are risk involved from, I think this is the stuff that regarding risk. So there's two risks that you need to look out for. One is the LKSM is basically a staking pool. It is a non-custodial, decentralized staking pool. So what that means is it works the same way as you take your KSM to nominate on Kusama. So you are still exposed to slashing risk, right? So do read into a little bit of that if you are new to staking. If you're not new to staking, then yes, so there will still be slashing risk. What are we doing about it? So right now we are nominating all the public validators. The next step is we have already start to recruit validators that are able to provide better commission as well as ability to self-insure. And that will open door to individuals, for individuals to enjoy a lot better rewards compared to just go straight to the public nodes, public validators as a retail user, right? So that's one reason to join the pool. And then the other is the insurance aspect basically reduces the risk of slashing. I'm sure slashing will happen, but if some of the validators are able to offer coverage, then at least we start to mitigate those risks altogether. So all in all, hopefully we gradually will provide a better and better service for everyone. At the same time, of course, all of this liquidity is going to help in the larger perspective, all the DeFi or the financial applications that are going to build on top of Phala or even on other parachains. We are able to support, right? So yeah, all for the sort of the longer term plan for that. And then yeah, and then so that's that. And then I think we are about to post some of the mining programs. I think all in all we have allocated 350,000 KR for the LKSM splash event. And basically, if you mint LKSM and stake it, then you get extra reward on top of the 16% that you earn, and the reward can be quite, sweet, I hope. But yeah, and then there's also reward for the liquidity pool as well. Whoa, just in time. There you go. Yeah, so
there it is.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Robin. Do you want to mention the crowdcast and the other details before we conclude on this, Robin?
Yeah, sure. I just shared the link there. We just posted the blog that goes over the KSM Liquid Staking Splash event. So you can take a look at the ways to earn rewards during that event period. And it's kind of all leading up to our launch party event. So I also, it's part of the blog there, but I'm going to share the link as well. We have a launch party that we'd love for you guys to RSVP to. We'll try to make it a big fun event that's full of some probably alpha leaks and good stuff like usual. But it's all leading up to the launch for LKSM, so we're really excited to have you guys take part in this. The main point I want to say is it's just time to start unbonding your KSM to get ready for these events, to participate in the liquid staking, and to open up all these new DeFi use cases that Betty was speaking about.
Yeah, I think I will also add to that is this is basically allow the Kusama, well, and later more so the DOT economy to be able to trickle up without compromising the security, right? Because the last thing we want is folks pulling a lot of the demand from KSM and DOT and put it in use and taking that away from staking and also securing the network. So the LKSM is basically allow you to do both. You continue to contribute to the Polkadot and Kusama validators and also securing the network. You're still doing that through the trustless protocols, but at the same time, those liquidity doesn't have to be hibernated, right? We can release some of those liquidity and be used for everyone else, right? So that is the main point of it. So anyway, I think that's us.
Yeah, I will say there's one question in the community chat really quick. Is the additional reward available for people who have already staked KSM for LKSM? Well, I know the answer to that. It's in the blog. We do have a way for you to stake, even if you've already participated in minting your own LKSM. So we put some directions in there, but you're just one step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, just before we leave the LKSM topic, Betty, 2 questions for you that I think users may be having as well. As we lift some of the restrictions that you were talking about, like lifting the cap, does that mean redemptions will also be available for LKSM? And then the second question is, as we develop, our validator set, you mentioned recruiting some folks or some validators that meet certain criteria. Will the community be able to see a list of people that are part of this validator group, so they may have some more comfort staking with us and just see some of the names that are participating?
Yeah, so I think we can do two things. One is we can already just release the public validators that we are validating with, right? So I think that's step number one. And then step number two is whenever that list changes, we can just update it to let the community know, that is the current validator set. And also folks can also, I think later on, we also have open up LKSM for voting as well. So I think right now we're early stage, but then later on there will be more validators that fits all the criteria that we put in, right? Then there's available spots that we validate. Then everyone can actually just like put in their votes and who they actually want. And so we have both ways. We have just a strategy that just able to select them based on all those set criteria. But there's also people can also vote as well, so that we always have a fallback on what validators that we use for the staking pool. And then what was the first question again, Josh?
Are they going to be able to redeem their LKSM with this update, or is that still not enabled?
Oh, yes. So that code is being merged. So it's probably going to come out in the next week or two. The redemption will be available. Yeah. That's why we are comfortable in scaling up.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cool. So I think that we can move along toward introducing the team. I know that we have guests here today, Phala team, Kala team. You can definitely tell us more about it. I know there's a governance proposal for Karura.
Before we actually go into details of this, I think our process is also evolving. And this is just a general, so I'll post this one as well. So this is, I posted a new pool wiki page that we had. So basically that is a rough process that folks can go through if they want to list their tokens on Karura Swap. And this hasn't gone into a lot of detail in terms of what if this is a cross-chain listing, which might have a different dynamic and technical prerequisite than just a plain simple listing, right? As these guys, so basically these parachain teams, they are the front runners of helping us to shape out the process as well, and then we'll be able to provide a lot more detailed guides for cross-chain listing as we go as well. So basically for listing new tokens, there are two steps that we need to go through. The first one is the technical feasibility check, right? So if you come from a different parachain or a different blockchain, there's usually we just test out how all of those steps can actually work in a testnet environment. So that is usually the first step. And then the second step is lay out the rationale of the listing, so get people to actually understand what the tokens are about, and then what are the token economics like, and then what is the reason for even common listing here, how does it actually help the different communities to get involved, etc. So that's how the proposals structure get laid out, so that everyone will have a good idea of what you are actually getting into before this stuff even get listed, right? So obviously this is a very different approach than maybe we don't go through a proposal, you just like list your coins and no one knows, and everything just happens. So I think both of them will have their place. We are soon opening up our EVM. So I think when, if you deploy smart contract DEX, then certainly you don't need to go through this process, but you will see the different dynamics get played out where you list, right? So you probably will see Karura as more, as relatively more blue chip vetted, at least vetted by community, and voted in by the community listing. whereas the completely permissionless DEX deployed on our EVM will be just as wild West sort of style. They all have their own merit points, I guess. But all in all, it's just an experiment to see which one plays out better, and then and also there's probably just like there's no better or worse. It's more of just preferences, right? Where do you want to list your token, and which DEX you want to use per se. And then in the end, I think the approach that we want to take is have unified liquidity. So all of this liquidity will be able to pull together. So regardless where you trade, you always be able to get the best price. And that is the whole point of it, so that you don't have a portion of the liquidity in DEX 1, a portion in DEX 2, a portion in DEX 3. There may be 3 DEXs, but then all the liquidity as a trader, as a person who want to swap tokens, then you have this aggregator that can help you through, navigate all of the pricing parities there. So yeah, so that's the whole point. I don't know if Marvin is back or not. Can he still talk or?
It does seem like there is some technical difficulties happening with the audio.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So I can no problem. Maybe people can ask questions. So I think regarding this listing, I think Phala is still at the early stage. I think they just submitted a proposal and then outlined very basic stuff like they want to open. Well, firstly they need to cross their Phala token across to Karura, and then have a stablecoin pair, right? So that's the basics of what it is. And then for Phala, for those of you didn't know, they are a privacy focused parachain, right? So their parachain is specialized in providing privacy, and more specifically through TEE, right? So hardware kind of secured network. So they've done a whole bunch of stuff since their launch. They are also the first batch of the Kusama parachains. So they've got their Ethereum bridge, and then they've bridged some asset across, and then they are soon gonna be able to cross over to Karura. I think earlier days we've done some test use case where we could cross our KR token as well as our US dollar, like KUSD token, over to Phala, and then come back with a privacy coin type of like privacy interaction, right? So then once we get to that stage again, then it will be a little bit more, you can see the light of cross-chain composability come into light. So right now it's just like step 1, getting the value able to cross to each other. And then the next step is add a privacy sort of feature onto the DeFi layer that we have here at Karura and also Akala later. So that's all I can say about that right now. So that is just like
Betty, one thing I was just going to throw in that I think is a little bit different than other proposals that we've seen is that they're hoping to use the Phala token as collateral. And so is that a trend you see continuing? And, how do you envision projects reaching out to us to use their token as collateral as well, in addition to the listing?
Collateral is a different game. Every collateral has to be assessed in terms of risk and also their liquidity and also their market volatility. So this is basically where Ganglet comes in. When every new collateral that we want to add, they will have to assess that for us. So this is no different from you're proposing a new asset onto Aave or proposing a new asset onto Compound or MakerDAO, where quite an extensive assessment has to be made from the risk team from outside to be able to qualify this asset to be added to as a collateral, because ultimately the product is the Karura dollar or the Akala dollar, right? And then what you put at the back of it is very important, like how solid that asset is, how widely being used that asset is. That means we could have a good liquidation event if that does happen, right? If you don't have liquidity, then it will be very difficult when price changes, sharply. So an example would be, a very, very newly listed token will be very hard to qualify as a collateral because one is there won't be enough liquidity, and also usually in the early stage of token listing is very, very volatile. It could go up, I don't know, like a lot, and it could come down a lot, and this is where people could take excessive risk and then also could get liquidated right the minute after. And then once they get liquidated, there's no way, if there's no liquidity, there's no way you can liquidate the asset and pay back the dollars, the KUSD or AUSD that you're minting. If it comes to that end, you're basically insolvent in terms of that part of the protocol, right? Then you have to probably shut it down or something like that. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why you see it's adding a collateral is usually a longer process and takes a lot of risk assessment, and a lot of those will be publicly discussed in terms of the risk factors and then what process that we've gone through and then what factors that we look for, right? So so certainly, but every asset will have the potential to become a collateral, but it's usually a long route if you are only just getting started. So that's why I think last time people also asked, would you guys put KR as collateral? Even KR is the network token for Karura. We're not adding KR as collateral for exactly those reasons, right? Yeah.
Well, it does seem like we're going to continue with the audio problems, but I think we covered a good deal of Phala and the proposal and the Karura governance. Marvin, we will definitely share your links, and please do feel free to write in the community call chat. I'm going to go ahead and invite the audience to stage if anyone has any questions. I do see a question lingering. Yep, Betty just answered. We often get the question if USDT or USDC will ever be used as collateral when there's a bridge.
Yeah, so it's possible. The consideration there, obviously, they both of them pass. Well, they will still have to go through the assessment, and I think both of them will be natively available on Polkadot. And then at least one of them will be natively available on Kusama. So the liquidity side will be okay. And then there's other assessments that we make to see if they qualify. And even they qualify, there's another aspect to consider is how much decentralization we need to be enforced into the stablecoin collateral basket, right? So you probably don't want, more centralized assets to take a majority share of the collateral basket. But maybe for a small portion, they are very good in terms of bootstrapping liquidity, so which is good for everybody, but keep them at a certain level that are comfortable for, I guess, for the overall community or users of the KUSD or the AUSD audience, right? And then another aspect of that is we're also kind of chatting with Centrifuge. That's also a very different type of collateral. So real world assets for stablecoin, which is going to be very cool, but it's a very different risk assessment there. It's cool in a way that it is not correlated with the crypto assets, right? So then it's usually a very good balance of risk there. They're not correlated. So there's many different options that we have. So, so slowly but surely we're going to get there, I guess. So.
Okay. Yes. Thanks a lot. I'm super impressed what have been built by the Arcala team so far. I have quite some funds in blockchain space on the Ethereum side, and just recently wanted to buy more Karura and had to go through a centralized exchange. Of course, that's not what we want. So the question would be, what would be the first trustworthy, safe way to use Trustless Bridge to move funds directly from Ethereum into Karura?
Well, thank you. Welcome. Welcome to the larger Kusama and Polkadot ecosystem. So I think right now you will still have to go through some sort of bridging system, whether there's centralized exchange. There's no there's a Snowfork bridge that are being launched, but they're not quite there yet. So if you're looking for a completely trustless bridge, there's none there right now, but it's coming out very soon. So you could either wait there for a bit for that bridge. Alternative solution is going through the centralized, I guess, solution. You could, I guess, get the KR token from exchanges, but more so, I think you're probably asking how to maybe land on the Karura chain and participate. So there's a number of ways. You could, get hold of some KSM and then use the Trustless Bridge from Kusama to Karura, and then be able to trade there. Then you can natively get some KR there through the pools available, and then also be able to participate in the LKSM splash that will just come up very soon, next week, or maybe the week after, to actually earn some KR as well. So yeah, so right now we are still super early stage. Like the approach that we are taking is locally bootstrap all the liquidity, like within the ecosystem, and then once that's solid, and then open up the bridge solutions so that we are. Yeah, but one thing is because we are going to accrue a lot of value, especially native KSM value. So right now we are close to 2% of KSM. So that's a lot of value. Imagine if that's 2% of DOT, right? So we are a bit cautious in terms of bridging solutions. There are actually many choices out there that we could just bolt on and open the door, but we are a bit cautious on which solution we go for, and then what operators, more importantly, will operate these bridges, so that we can at least at some level will be comfortable of large amount of DOT-based assets as well as KSM-based assets can flow in and out, right? I think if you just want a quick solution, then it's not very hard to do. We've got multiple solutions already, but yeah, so the safety and security side is more of our concern at this stage. So that's why we are taking kind of a little bit of time to actually nail out a good solution. But there are bridges coming. And someone just asked that question regarding bridges to other ecosystems and that as well. So we are actually planning for a bridge that can go to at least 2 or 3 ecosystems altogether. So yeah, so that's Ethereum and also ecosystems. So
yeah, thanks. Sounds super cool, and I'm definitely on the same side that we should be cautious because I know that operating a bridge is quite a risky process. So that's what I asked: what would be the most trustworthy bridge to use, and when we can expect to use it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we're working on the technical part, but also working on the operator part of it, to be sure. At least we can sleep at night.
Any timeline? Weeks? Months?
So right now we are doing, so if we're after the complete trustless bridge, we are doing some testing already with Snowfork to make sure that we can actually cross parachain and cross the ETH assets over. And then I think in the next few weeks, they probably will get ready for a parachain. And then we'll be able to use their bridge trustlessly. At the same time, we also have non-fully trustless bridge. So this is more, running by a set of, so more in the middle ground, right? So use some threshold signature technology. And also there's multi-sig options out there as well. So we are more just making a decision on which one to actually use and how we actually set up the operators so that we can be safely moving the assets across. So those will be probably even faster than the Snowfork decentralized bridge, but both will be made available, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we definitely don't want to end up in a situation like with Arbitrum or Polygon, where we just have a couple of nodes and just one guy holding the master key. That's not why we are in a decentralized blockchain environment, I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always this yeah, I think this is like just different approach people are taking. Like you want to get there really quick, but I think at least you have to have a plan, like how you decentralize, and it's like technically feasible before you can move to that next step, right? Otherwise, it will be once you've got assets on the bridge, then it's a little bit hard to unroll those assets, right? Because it's basically if you have assets across that bridge, it's one version or one liquidity fragmentation of that particular assets. And then it will be quite hard to kind of unroll that once you have a better technology that come out. So yeah, so there's a lot to consider. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We brought up our favorite recurring guest to the stage here, Blink, and I'm actually really excited because this week Blink is an ambassador, actually joined the Akala Ambassador Program, and we're happy to have him.
Hey, thanks so much for the undeserved intro. Yeah, and thank you to Betty and the team for all the hard work they're doing, and thank you for taking the time to speak with all of us. And please release it when it's ready. Take all the time you need. After all that, I would just like to touch on the cross-chain function calling. Kylan was able to achieve that with a star. And I was wondering if that is like kind of what we're waiting for to be implemented before the EVM compatibility is like completely ready to go. And then, even moving beyond that, I hope this isn't too much of a loaded question, but when like Moon River launches on Sushi Swap, vice versa, and stuff like that, is that cross-chain function calling going to enable basically like to more easily with less friction on the network to tap into like Karura's liquidity?
Good questions. So first of all, for cross-chain, there's two aspects to it. One is cross-parachain. So basically, across all the Polkadot or Kusama native ecosystems, there's also cross-consensus, which means cross from Polkadot to other consensus systems like Ethereum, Solana, Terra, or whatever you are interested in. So those are two very different problem sets. From the first problem set, it's basically through XCM. You see, Gavin, been kind of putting out this really long post explaining all the XCM stuff. It is quite involved in terms of implementing all those. And through the XCM messaging, then we will be able to do this trustless cross-chain stuff. And in fact, Karura is the first implementer of cross-chain fungible tokens. So that's why you can get not wrapped KSM, but real KSM crossed from Kusama to Karura, right? And this is also partly how our KSM worked. So when you stake your KSM into the staking pool in Karura, it just like use XAM and cross over to Kusama and do the rest of it, right? So this is what the XAM is for. And then obviously, when we say we are able to do cross-chain listing, this is like, Phala and Bifrost and also, other folks, even Moon River, with their native token on Substrate, when they come over, this is also through XCM. And this is what we are kind of working in the background with every other parachain team, because we've implemented this runtime called ORML XCM. Basically, it's an implementation of this generic language that Gavin kind of invented, right? So he invented the language format, but the language format doesn't actually execute. You have to write software to implement the language format that understands each other. So we've done the job of implementing them, and then we have tried it on almost every other, parachain. Most other parachains that we've kind of like tried it with can do kind of cross-chain sending values across. And then obviously, once you are able to send the values across, the next step is more fancy stuff, right? So this also requires more parity support on enabling those functions. Like, for example, not only you can send values across, you can also make function calls. So basically, we can, for example, you can transfer the tokens and also trade on Karura DEX. you can do it in one call. So this is the more advanced XCM execution stuff that we will be focused on after that function become available, made available by Parity. So we're waiting on that for some of the more advanced use cases. But for the base case, we are all very good. Like it's all running on XCM right now. And then so in terms of EVM that you also mentioned, essentially, EVM is a module on substrate. So depends on the parachain's choice, then you can have EVM installed onto your blockchain, and then you become EVM compatible, right? And then the EVM is a sandbox. So basically what happens in the EVM stays within EVM, unless you do some extra work, right? So if there's ERC20 inside the EVM sandbox, then it stays in there. No one else would know. It cannot cross to other parachains easily. It can cross to other blockchains using various different bridge options that we described, because you basically it's cross to different blockchains, right? Essentially. So that is the standard way of how you operate a EVM. And then of course, on Akala, we've always been in this native solution provider, and also customization is our thing. If you go into use cases that will actually suit mass market or more widely used applications, you need your customizability at a substrate level to be available in EVM, right? So that's why we have the EVM Plus. That's why we haven't released our EVM yet. If we want a standard one, like the sandbox one, we could have launched it like 2 months ago, because you basically just install it and then open it up, and then there's your EVM, right? This is the beauty of substrate. But we want something more. We want all our customized feature. For example, right now, you could pay fees on Karura in US dollars. You can also pay fees in KSM. You don't need the native token. We also want that to be available in our EVM, because that's the whole point, right? If you have stacks of protocols building on top of Akala, you don't want them to be in a separate world without enjoying all the fancy stuff that we customize for DeFi use case. So we're making all of those integrated between the EVM world as well as the substrate world. So that is why we're taking a little bit more to just polishing up that integration, so that it's going to be very smooth from a user perspective. If you want to stay in a MetaMask world, you could do that, and then you can still pay fees in US if you really want to, right? And then you also have a choice to switch over to Pogo.js. As a Pogo.js user, you could also use those EVM deployments, right? And in our system, it's one account. So what that means is there's no upload or download stuff. There's no two accounts. Basically, it's one balance. If you have 10 USDC, you have 10 USDC everywhere, right? And you can send them cross-chain. You can use them in any protocols within the EVM and also outside of the EVM native or Karura as well. So that is where we are going, right? And so so I hope that kind of like clarify hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you 100%. I love asking the questions because the way that you answer them is super informative for those that might not understand the technical jargon, the deeper technical jargon that's involved. And then also you always say like at least one or two things that I either didn't understand before or didn't even know. And so now I can like help disseminate that information. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for the good question. Yeah.
Cool. So we are nearing the end of our hour. I do see some lingering questions in the community call chat, but we'll be sure to answer those after the call wraps. Basically, I just wanted to reiterate a little bit of what we went through today, some of our announcements. Start on bonding your KSM to participate in the liquid staking splash. That will be launching soon, and we put the blog in the community call whiteboard so you can learn more about the event and how to get your chance at 350,000 in car rewards essentially for the community. stay tuned for the Liquid staking launch. That Crowdcast event is also there if you want to save your spot in RSVP for some cool announcements on that day. And take a look at the colladiscourse.group to see the Phala proposal for listing PHA and KUSD pair and enabling Phala and Karura. I'm so sorry that we had microphone issues with Marvin, but thank you so much for coming, and we'll definitely try this again in the future because we want to be able to talk with you and learn a little bit more about the project. But if everybody else is, unless there's anything to add, I think we're going to just wrap it here, and I'll be sure to post this recording as soon as we have it uploaded to YouTube.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.